Yeah.
Brilliant, thank
Okay,
you.
I am recording. Off you go.
Okay, first question. The first question is just if you could just tell us your name, if that's all right,
Christine Dodson.
Christine Dodson. And so, what is your story in High Green then? So, what was High Green like when you were growing up?
A village. It was like a village when I was growing up. There was sort of no shops, very little shops anyway, probably one or two shops, and sort of more like a village, whereas now it's a lot busier. The built all the Angren Bank estate, that wasn't there when I was little. And it was like a village, just like a village, yeah.
So,
But
what were some of your favourite things to do when you were, and places to go when you were growing up around here?
youth clubs, that's all that what was about. Dances at the church hall on a Saturday night and youth clubs at the welfare on a Thursday. That was really there was nothing else really to do except that. Uh,
And what was it like going to school? What were some of your favourite things about school?
I didn't particularly like school. Uh, yeah, I mean, it was a nice school. I went to Wortley Road School, which is just down the road from here, and it was about 10-minute walk from where I lived. And in those days, kids went. I can't ever remember my mum taking me to school, but she must have done when I was 5. But I mean, she's dead now, my mum, so I mean, I can't ask her. But you just sort of walk, and there wasn't traffic and that in them days. It was sort of safe and that for kids to walk about and that then, yeah. But yeah, I did like school. I like Wortley Road, I like the junior school and infant school. I didn't like senior school at all. And the only thing I wanted to do was leave school and get a job. And that, and I mean, my mum wanted me to stop on and do a sixth form, but I didn't want to, just weren't interested at all. Just wanted to work and that. So, yeah, so a bit of a boring life I've had. Yeah.
Not at all,
Uh,
bless you. And on that note, then, when you did leave school, what employment did you first get?
I was in a sales office at Newton Chambers.
And what
Isle sales it was, yeah.
and what was it like working at ISIL? Could you run us through what a day in the life would be like as a ISIL salesperson?
Yeah, it was nice. It was sort of like there was about 20 odd in the office and a typing pool next door and then officers below. And then there was a canteen, but because we were office staff, there was a restaurant at the end of the canteen. So office staff went in there and then the workmen all went in the canteen and that. So it was sort of a bit segregated there. But my nana used to work at Newton Chambers and my mum as well. They both worked at Newton Chambers. So I mean that in particular why I went, but it was just that it was a main place for people to get employment from my green Newton Chambers because you could walk it to work and that. So and it was busy, but it was in them days. Isle, there was like Isle factory, Isle toilet rolls, and that, and it was sort of quite busy in that at that time. So
And as a salesperson, what were some of your roles and responsibilities you had to do?
just I'd worked with the sales reps a lot and sort of just working their rotas out. That were my main responsibility, sort of working and how many sales they did a day and a week and what have you. So nothing exciting.
And how did it feel working for such a for ISIL? How did it feel working for Newton Chambers? How did that make you feel?
Well, it was a good place to work. It was sort of quite, it was well known and it was sort of, yeah, I mean, at that time when I went to work, it was like better to work in an office at Newton Chambers than to work in a local shop or something like that. I mean, it sounds a bit like snobby that, but that's where that it was in those days. Yeah, but yeah, it was nice. Yeah, liked it. Yeah.
And so you mentioned your mum and grandmother also worked there.
Yeah.
What roles and what jobs did they have there?
My mum, they had the college there, Thorncliffe College, Secretarial College, and my mum was one of the first people to go there, and she sort of went to Thorncliffe College, and she was a secretary, my mum. My nan worked in the works department because it was years beforehand, and my granddad worked there as well. So loads of people sort of like from round here worked at Newton Chambers. You didn't really find that there were many people from like Sheffield or anywhere like that. In fact, in our office, everybody lived in High Green, Chapeltown, Warren, and nobody from further afield than that. They were all local people that worked there.
Oh, fantastic.
So, not a family affair, but I mean, as I said, my mum were a secretary in that. She loved work, and she had me, and then had my brother 10 years later. And then when she was 50, she went back to college. And we said, Mother, you'll never get a job at 50, because when I were only like 20, 30 then, and I said, you'll never get a job. But she did. She got a secretarial job at Orland Pittles, which is just opposite Ecclesfield School there. And she sort of stayed there till she retired and that. So,
Oh, that's
yeah.
brilliant. And how long did you stay working at Newton Chambers?
I worked there 10 years.
And what made you leave?
I was having a baby. That's why I left. Yeah. I was having Kirsty and that. So that's why I left. And you didn't get like maternity leave in them days. So, I mean, I sort of stayed at home then, and then had another baby 2 years after. And then sort of went to work in the beer off just round the corner. And I mean, that worked because I used to sort of work. Jeff sort of didn't get home while he was a builder, and he sort of didn't. Sometimes it were like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. So I used to work a couple of evenings a week. Jeff came in, sorted kids, sorted tea, didn't you? And then I sort of went to work, and there were long hours then, sort of like, it was like 7 while 10 at night, but because it was only just round the corner, I could walk there and come back and that. So yeah, all right.
A beer off, did you say?
Yeah, an off licence. Everybody called it a beer off in those days. Yeah, an off licence. Yeah.
And what did you do working in a beer off?
Just serve people. Yeah, serve behind the counter. That was all. Fill the shelves up, and that. And one, it was busy because it was the only off licence in the area, and that. But I mean, there were never any trouble in those days. Like now, if you sort of went in to a beer off, they like hold them up, and on the corp on Gringott Lane, there's sort of just been, somebody's just been stabbed outside there, and it's horrendous for like drugs and that there. But I mean, there were nothing like that when I was growing up. Not in High Green anyway.
Did you often, when you were growing up, then get involved in any of the events, or did you get involved with the community here at High Green?
Yeah, I mean, sort of like with youth clubs, and the church had a dance, and I used to sort of go to the church sometime, not on a regular basis and that, but sort of they both ran youth clubs, like the welfare and the church. So that was the only thing. And then it was when you got a bit older, went into Chapeltown and that then, because you could get like a bus down to Chapeltown, and they had dances at the Newton Hall. So yeah, so not a very exciting life.
It sounds great though.
So,
and I think, how did you feel then when Newton Chambers closed?
well, I mean, I wasn't there then, but I just thought, oh, how sad, because like it had been there forever, as long as I can remember ever. So my granddad worked there. He was sort of a workman. He worked in like the melting shop or something. My nan worked in the tank factory, and my mum worked there, and loads of people that I knew worked there, and I got a lot of friends that worked there. So it's sad, really. I think it's awful, because it was a big concern, and then it's nothing now at all, is it? Yeah, it's all gone.
And do you remember anything about the tank that was on display?
The what up at the top of Warren Lane? Yeah, there was a tank there. Yeah, but I don't really remember much about it at all.
Because it's. Do you know what happened to that?
I don't know. No, do you know, Jeff, what happened to it? Tank at top of
No,
Warren Lane. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
got removed.
I've not been up there for ages. I don't know why it got removed.
No, that's completely
Shame, isn't it, that? Yeah, yeah. And like Westwood Row you mentioned, didn't you?
Yeah, could you explain any memories of there?
Yeah, it was like sort of... I never went down there. My dad, he did, because he got relatives that lived down there. But it's sort of like at the back of the pack horse, you know, where the pack horse Paces is, there. Down the back of there, it was sort of all like terrace houses. But I knew people at school who came from there, but I never used to go down there at all.
Did you ever go down to or have anything to do with the dam there as well? That was there then.
Yeah, there was a dam, yeah, and but there's a dam across here as well, Holbrook Dam. Yeah, well, I used to sort of go there. My dad used to go fishing there. And I had to go and get him maggots from a shop down near the church. And he used to give me a biscuit tin and then said, fetch me some maggots. Can't imagine now I ever did that at all. But that's what they used to use in them days for fishing. Yeah.
So how did you feel when? So in fact, do you remember any of the open cast mining?
No,
exploits?
no, I don't know, no.
So how did you feel when you heard that Westwood Roads and the dam were being demolished?
Yeah, well, I thought it were awful because, I mean, there were a lot of people but they were rehoused in better houses than what they lived in. So it were better, really. I mean, I thought it were awful at time when they were sort of like getting, how can I put it? The were cast a bit of slums down there, which, I mean, people I went to school with, there were nothing wrong with them. They're just poor. They sort of hadn't got much and that. And then when they were rehoused, it were a lot better for them. They sort of rehoused them on the estate down by the park. And then when they built Angram Bank, sort of a lot of people went into houses from there. So, yeah.
And so you mentioned Angram Bank, for example. What are some of your favourite places nowadays around High Green?
There aren't any really. No, I don't, because I can't walk on that much now. We sort of don't really go around anywhere. There's nowhere, is there, in High Green, really?
What?
Favourite places in High Green? I mean, I like High Green as a whole, but there ain't any favourite places like there used to be. Like even the park, we took Joseph down to the park not long ago, and I said, it's rubbish here. There's just nothing. There were just a couple of swings and a slide, and that was all. Nothing which there used to be, and that there used to be like cricket ground and play cricket on there. And I can remember going and watching, not particularly watching people, but sort of going and sitting round when cricket were on and that in summer. But
Did you ever get involved with any sports?
no, I'm not. My brother's sporty. He's always played and my dad played football while he were in his 50s, my dad, and not on a regular basis, but it was an embarrassment to me that, because when I was a teenager, people would knock on the door and say, is Mr. Kirk coming? With a man short. And you say, God, why, to my mother, I said, why don't you stop him? Going, I said, are embarrassing somebody. He probably weren't 50, probably in his 40s. Going to play football, and I found it as a teenager really like embarrassing that my dad were playing football for local teams and that. But I said now there's nothing in High Green at all. I mean, I like High Green and I won't really move from here, but there's nothing at all in High Green that you could sort of go and say, oh, it'll be nice to go there and nice to go there. There's just nowhere at all. Shame.
And on talking about, like, that your dad was used to play football and
Yeah.
that they used to feel like a community.
Yeah.
What did you and your family used to do when you were growing up?
What did we do?
Yeah, so like, did you ever go on, let's say, like a favourite holiday, for example?
Oh yeah, we always had holidays every year, yeah. And because there's like 10 years in with my brother, my nan and granddad used to take me on holidays. I'd never not had a holiday. They used to take me when my brother were little, and my mum and dad didn't go. But we always went every year, either to Scarborough or Blackpool of all places. But that's where people used to go in them days, Blackpool or Scarborough or Filey or Bridlington.
And what did you used to do on holiday?
Just probably go on the beach, go in the sea, amusements, and not a lot really.
I was going to say, I used to go Filey with my granddad and grandma all the time, and I used to enjoy Filey.
Yeah.
And we used to do the same. And so, you mentioned someone called Joseph. Now, is that a...
Joseph's my grandson, Matt. It's Kirsty's Joe. I've got 3 grandchildren, but 2 of them, they live at Penistone, 2 girls, with my son and his wife. But then Joseph, they live just round the corner. And his mum's on her own with him. I mean, it's her choice to be on her own with him. So we have him quite a lot. He'll be coming up tonight. And yeah, they've got 2 dogs, and when Kirsty walks dogs, Joseph says, "Can I go to Nanan's?" And he'll sort of just come here for an hour. So we see quite a lot of him, and Jeff picks him up from school if Kirsty's working in work, not in the office and that. So yeah, so time consuming.
And what kind of stuff do you do with your grandkids then? Do you go anywhere in particular, or?
Yeah, I mean, we take him to the park and we take him, but he mostly likes to come here, and he's got a soft foot, he's football mad. Softball, and he'll say to Jeff, "Can we play football?" Sort of open the door, and he's like kicking the ball and that about, and that's his favourite thing. And so he'll say, "Nana, you'll be referee," but I don't know the first thing about football. But yeah, we have him quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, we do take him. We'll take him to the park or take him to Elsecar and things like that.
And so speaking of Elsecar then, did you ever visit Elsecar much?
Yes, I did. I'd got somebody who I worked, who was at school with, and they came from Hoyland and Elsecar to Ecclesfield School. So I'd got a friend that lived at Elsecar, so I did used to go to Elsecar quite a bit
Oh,
when I was younger.
What did you used to do there?
Pictures. There was a picture place there, and then there was also, as I got older, there was like a nightclub there. It wasn't open all night. It was sort of like it was called the Birdcage, and it's sort of. I mean, I'd be like a teenager then, so to go there. But only thing is, there were only 1 bus an hour, so you got to sort of plan it to go there and make sure you catch the bus back, and that.
Where was the picture house?
Forgotten what it was called now. Do you mean where was it?
Yeah.
Just as you go near the station. Not far from the station. Just a bit further up, wasn't it, Jeff, from station?
Well, nightclub.
No, picture place.
Oh, that's just on top of going down to Elsecar, just at top of Brower Hill.
Yeah, near where our station is, isn't it?
I was just above station.
Just, yeah.
And where was the birdcage then?
The Birdcage was just a bit higher up, and it was on the corner, the road, and that was really popular. And that
So was turf.
that were a pub though.
Yeah, well, it's really all good dancing.
Yeah, they
and
used to
all
have
that
dancing
lot.
and that, yeah, and turns and that on, yeah.
And how did you feel when they closed down then?
Well, I didn't know that they had closed down. I mean, I know that they have, but because we've been away from there for not gone there for a long time, it didn't affect me at all. I don't know.
And so coming back to your employment then at the beer off the off license.
Yeah.
What made you leave the off license?
Because my kids were a bit old then, and I used to sort of do like a couple of nights a week for Pat, and any days if she wanted. But my kids were a bit older then. Adam were 9. He was still at junior school round here, and Kirsty was down at Pacer School. And somebody came in, a girl called Julie, who I know. I mean, I've worked with her since, and she said that she's, "Why don't you apply for?" They were wanting some people there, a receptionist, and I said, "I've not done reception. I've done office work, but I've not done reception." And she says, "Oh, apply," and I applied and got the job, and stayed 26 years.
26
So,
years.
yeah.
And in that role then as a receptionist, what did you particularly enjoy about that job?
I enjoyed all of it, yeah. I enjoyed sort of like meeting people, and when we were on the front desk all the time for like 6 hours and that, sort of on the desk answering the phone and typing letters out. Doctors used to dictate in those days, and now they do it all like online and that, but they sort of used to like come out with a dictaphone and sort of like dictate into it, and then we used to write it down and then type the letters up and that. But I didn't like that as much as what I liked on the front desk and that. I used to like that on the front desk.
Oh, that's
And
brilliant.
it's a busy practice, a really busy practice. There's one at High Green Health Centre around the corner here, and then there's one at Burn Cross, and it's a joint. It's called Chapel Green Practice. So it's sort of a joint practice and that, yeah. So I've always been around here for 70 odd years. Yeah.
Oh wow! And moving back, actually, you mentioned that when your kids were growing up, you used to work nights. What was some of your favourite things to do with your kids when they were growing up?
Do with them? What do you mean, like entertaining them and things
Yeah,
like
if you
that?
had any like activities or holidays that you used to like to do or go on.
No, I mean, we all went on holiday together and we went with my mum and dad when we started going abroad when Adam were, I think he were 5 and we sort of used to go abroad sometimes with my mum and dad, sometimes not. But otherwise, just normal things that kids do. I mean, they got like activities like brownies and guides and football and that. So it was just taking them there really. And my mum lived just up the road. So we sort of used to spend a lot of time going up there and coming down here, etc. So,
Wonderful.
not a very exciting life, and not be a very exciting
Oh, not
documentary.
at all. It's
This.
great to hear about about your story. So really, I think we mentioned about obviously Chapel, like High Green, and Westwood Road closing down.
Yeah,
What would you say is the difference between the community now and the community when you were growing up? What has changed?
it's not a village anymore. It's much busier than what it used to be. It was virtually a village when I was growing up, and there weren't sort of that many houses. Now there's like big estates and that, and much busier and not as nice a place as it used to be. Whether that's because there's more people or whether people change and there's a lot of knife crimes and stuff like that in here around here. But I mean, we've never seen anything like that. But I mean, there is quite a lot. Bank is quite noted for being sort of not a very nice place to live. But I mean, I know a lot of people who live on it and they're nice and that, and not everybody's bad, are they, you know? So,
And I think actually you mentioned as well about how your daughter Kirsty,
yeah,
and about how Paces used to be a school, used to be the school.
yeah.
What was the school like?
It was lovely. It was lovely. I mean, when they'd left, a lot of bad reports were coming out about it. But I said, and they said it was a poor school. But I didn't. I mean, Kirsty got qualifications there, but not. She didn't work as hard as what Adam did, and he wanted to go to university and that. But both of mine did all right there. So
Oh, wonderful.
yeah.
So, and how did you feel when that did actually close? How did that make you feel?
Yeah, I felt it sad because I thought, well, I've got a grandson. I mean, he's only 9 at the minute, but I just thought when he goes, he's going to have to go because Ecclesfield School is horrendous at the moment. And so he's going to have to travel to either Stocksbridge or Penistone to go to school. And the long days then when they're sort of going, having to travel all that way, whereas like just going down the road to Paces would have been absolutely brilliant and that. But it's sad, but things move on, don't they? That's how time goes on.
And do you have any interaction with Pacers nowadays?
With
Pacers nowadays, are you aware of what they do? And
no, I don't really. No, because St Joseph's not there at nursery anymore, so I don't ever sort of go down there at all now. But I know I've seen in the paper and that there's sort of lots of things going off, don't they? And that, and they've got a cafe, and that which is good because like people older like me, you can always go down and get a cup of coffee and that if you want to. But I haven't been down at all. But yeah, it's a shame really.
and I think it's really nice what you're saying about how when you were growing up there was a real community in the town.
Yeah, there was, yeah.
And so, like you're saying how it's a lot of estates nowadays. What did High Green used to look like before?
Much as it does now, really, except like they've built like the new estate, Bank, and then lots and lots of new houses and that, but virtually just the same as it does now, really. Yeah.
And I think this brings us on naturally nicely towards and more towards looking to the future and the present. Do you ever have much to do with Sheffield?
Not now, no. I never go into town anymore. Yeah, I used to when I was younger. Me and my friend used to go at least once a week into town, but all the shops are closed and that. There's nothing there now at all, and I don't drive, so you'd have to rely on like public transport, which is not very reliable in High Green. It used to be a good service in High Green. There used to be lots of buses, and every 10 minutes now, every hour, and it's not very good at all.
And do you venture into anywhere nearby? Do you go into Elsecar, for example?
Only if we take Joseph or the kids. And I mean, my son lives at Penistone and we go up there. I mean, I won't want to live at Penistone because it's out in Wales, but they like it. And my daughter-in-law's got a shop at Hoyland Common and one at Penistone. So we sort of do go up to Penistone quite a bit.
Brilliant. And one thing that always struck me when I first started coming here was just how there's quite a lot of different green area, and
Yeah,
it's supposed to
yeah.
be quite a green area.
Yeah, it is.
Do you enjoy or use a lot of the green areas around here?
I don't particularly, but Jeff does. I mean, we've got a lovely view from our house here. We sort of, like some of the houses up here, they've just got bungalows facing, not really got much view. But ours looks right up to Holbrook and right over Grenoside and that. So we have got a good view. But I'd never think to look out the window. Jeff does, don't you?
Read a lot.
Yeah.
And when you were growing up, then these green areas, did you ever use them, play out in them, for example?
Yeah. I mean, there was like at the top of our road, there was this. We used to call it Springwood, top of Springwood Lane, and we used to sort of go down the wood quite a lot. And there's a stream at the bottom, and I know my dad used to take my kids up. My dad was like Piper when I'd got 2 kids next door, but one got 2 kids. Further up got 2 kids, and my dad used to take half a dozen of them. I mean, nowadays they probably think he were a pervert, but he used to sort of they used to follow my dad, and he used to have like get conkers and sticks and all that. And at bottom, I know he told kids that I made this stepping stones. They've got stepping stones in the, and you said I made this for you, and the kids believed him. And that, and I know when he died, we sort of went up in the cars past my mum's house and that. And Adam said, "Can you remember when Grandad, Robert Butterworth, really believed that Grandad had made those stepping stones?" And our Adam went, "Yeah, he were about 15 then." I said he wasn't, he weren't. But I mean, it really, my dad spent a lot of time down Wood. He used to go blackberrying. And he were always sort of down walking and down wood and that. So we did spend time down wood when we were younger and that. But nowadays, if your kids like Joseph's 9, if he was to sort of say, "Oh, I'm going down wood," we'd say, "No, you're not," and that, because it doesn't safe now. It's not like it were when I don't know. People have changed and that. It's just not the same anymore. So.
And I think that does actually bring us on to, and quite nicely onto this last question then. Now, this area, like you say, has changed a lot since when you were since you were growing up. How do you feel about a lot of the heritage that's being lost? Do you feel like it's being overshadowed, it's kind of being lost for future
Yeah, I think I just think nowadays people are not as interested in that. I mean, like Workley Church, that I can remember going there when I was younger. And it was lovely to sort of go like and look round churches and Wentworth, but I don't think people do that as much nowadays. Like kids are more into look on your tablet if you want to look at Wentworth, and yeah, it's a shame really that things have changed, but that's life, isn't it?
And actually, sorry, this is the final question mentioning Wentworth and about Workley Church then. So, what did you like about going to Workley Church then? What did you do there?
It was just different from High Green. It was nice that you could sort of go to a different place and then you could sort of go down the side of the church and then go into Wortley Hall and go. I mean, it wasn't like a regular visits, but we did sort of go there in the summer and that and go down, and it was just different from High Green and that. That's all.
Because I personally also loved going Wentworth with my granddad when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And so when you went to Wentworth, what kind of stuff did you do in Wentworth then?
The garden centre wasn't open then, so you just sort of like go by the church and then you could walk down and then sort of just sort of have a nice walk around at Wentworth. I mean, my son got married at Wentworth Church and it's lovely and that there. But then they had the reception at Home Firth, which is a long way to go. But they got a coach and that, and then they sort of went there, but they like Wentworth as well, and they lived at Thorpe Hesley as well, so that's not far to go to Wentworth from Thorpe Hesley.
It's quite close by, quite convenient, and I think one thing I'm grateful for is that there's all these areas around here which have so much history, etc., to offer that it's nice just to have them there. Really, I think final, like, just last note might be just what are some of the things you'd like to see happen in the future then, you know, maybe around this area, around your area?
I'd like it to be less trouble than what there is. That's what I don't like about it now, that it's such you don't feel safe to go out at night and that now, like you could at one time. And I mean, it's nothing to really do with Angren Bank, but there's sort of a lot of roughnecks and that about now, which I suppose it's any place like that, really, aren't there? You know, you get that. But I mean, I'm quite happy as it is, so. I mean.
Well, it's been brilliant talking to Christine, thank you. Unless there's any other story you really want to share, I think...
Not really, no.
No, that's brilliant.
Like I told you, my life is dreamt nearly, yeah.
Honestly, no, it's been brilliant talking to you. Thank you very much, Christine. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's all my questions. Thank you. Yeah.